With me now, Aruna Kashyap, Senior Counsel for the Women's Rights Division of Human Rights Watch and author of the report. She joins us live from Mumbai. Aruna, thank you for joining us today. You say in the report that key practices by clothing companies fuel abusive cost-cutting methods by factories that harm workers. Is that what also explains the title of the report, Paying for a Bus Ticket and Expecting to Fly?
Yes, thank you for having me on your program. The report is based on interviews with suppliers, people who produce for big brands across the globe. And it's a direct quote from one of the suppliers I interviewed, where he was describing how brands have a set of policies and what they call codes of conduct, many of them do, and insist that factories follow certain working conditions in order to be able to produce for the brands. But when it comes to making sure that the costs that are needed to be paid by brands to the factories to pay workers the wages and benefits according to national laws, then the brands sort of push back because they're driving down the prices. And there's a survey that says that about 52% of suppliers who took the survey were actually accepting orders even below the production costs. And this is a direct sort of the type of tension that drives labor abuses in factories.
So 6 years on, have you seen any improvements since the RANA Plaza disaster? And what should these big, wealthy international clothing brands do to improve the situation for workers?
There are two things here. One is directly on the question of fire and building safety. In Bangladesh itself, following the RANA Plaza collapse, which, as you described, is a huge tragedy, one of the biggest industrial disasters, there have been two fire and building safety initiatives. One was the Bangladesh Accord on Fire and Building Safety. It drove significant improvements because it was a binding agreement between brands and workers, where factories had to bring about changes, and if they didn't, after a series of warnings, none of the brands that were part of the accord could produce in those factories. And that is a kind of commitment that did bring about change. But in order for this to be a lasting industry-wide change, not only in Bangladesh, but there are numerous other countries where the factory working conditions are bad, and there are also significant fire and building safety concerns. The concern is if the brand is not paying enough, or the brand is not paying attention to what it costs for the factories to make sustainable improvements in the factory, then this is going to be an intractable problem in the coming years. And for this to change, brands also have to look at their own practices and see how those should be modified and inform consumers what they're doing to change them.
We have seen many international clothing brands coming out in recent years encouraging better working conditions and better pay for workers. But are they really serious about improving conditions when they put pressure on suppliers to drive down prices or produce faster?
I mean, that's precisely the question we're asking, which is, brands have they say all the right things when it comes to workers' rights. There should be better wages, workers should not be forced to work overtime, workers should be given adequate breaks to work and not be made to sit in their, the sewing machines working endlessly even without toilet breaks. And repeatedly, one of the complaints from workers is that none of this is happening in factories. And when you begin to ask why, one part of the problem is, of course, factories are not enforcing labor laws, are not respecting unions and so on. But the other larger problem is that the brands that are demanding better working conditions are not putting money where their mouth is. And that's really the problem. We need brands to pay more. We also need brands to make sure that they are disclosing transparently where they produce their clothes.
Okay. Aruna Kashyap, thank you for joining us today.